Veronica Bartolini with Codebreaker Real Talk, and I've been waiting for this day for a while now, for a good almost little over 2 years. Thank you, Jesse Falk, for being here, and I'm excited. I'm glad that you're here with myself and Power Lady today. So tell me about your experiences in the DoD. Did you see any zombies under the basements there?
No, they had a basement floor, but there were no zombies. There was a lot of scope work, basically one thing to look at it and one thing to aim with. So if you take a helmet cam, for example, and you want to point your gun somewhere else, or say someone is fallen, you can see exactly what the gun is pointing at, and people can actually see the feed that your gun is seeing or that you're seeing. So if you're down, they can actually rescue you that way, as opposed to not knowing anything that's going on past the wall that they might be hiding behind.
And is this for the military? Does everybody have this kind of gun, or?
Actually, at first, these were for Ukraine. We were building weapons for Ukraine in Florida. I found that out basically after they made a separate department for it called IWSI, which was the scopes that we were making, just downgraded a tiny bit so that they were for NATO forces, which happened to include Ukraine way before Ukraine even hit the news that it was joining NATO. So I learned about that before it even hit news.
That's interesting. Do you still have your badge?
Yeah. What does it say? 3C.
What did you do there? You worked on these.
3C, the little little umbrella logo. Pretty much, I was just a builder. They would have me at different stations. The first station, we would work on a sniper scope that they would take out back and eventually test. That's all I got with that. It was a lot of work. It was pretty much one scope per day per person.
Wow.
The one scopes we were working on had bias detectors, different reticles you could use, just the click of a button, whether you had a grenade launcher or a sniper or a different kind of caliber. After that, they were slowing down a little bit because of the Jabberwocky. We didn't have the ability to work as much because everyone was either getting sick or too afraid to come to work. But if we had to work and we were okay, we worked. During that time, they had me go into the cold chambers where we would test weapons in extremely cold environments or extremely hot environments, whether 140 degrees, negative 40 degrees. It was hell in there. I never want to do it again. I would wear sweaters like this. It was the hottest experience of my life. But I'm sure when you take these different technologies to around the world and it's not what you're used to, the habits changed. So you want to make sure they work in those different habits.
I'm sure some work underwater, right?
I haven't seen those, but I'm sure they have those now.
They do.
Where things can get waterlogged, jammed, you name it, and they'll still fire.
Mm-hmm. So how long did you work for the department, and why did you decide to not go back?
Well, why I went in the first place, mainly money. They were offering a lot of money for new people to join. No experience, no military experience, nothing, just right off the street type of people. And of course, I needed it. I was there for 2.5 years. Part of me wanted to learn a little bit about what they were doing. I've always been kind of a rebel against the government, you could say. So I was kind of curious as to what they were making and if I would even be allowed to work there, knowing my background. And yeah, I was allowed to. And I actually turned out to be the fastest builder still to this day on Station 2 that no one could beat my record. I built 55 sites in a night, which is about $12,000 a site. So I made them money.
Wow, nice. Do you want to talk about what happened, why you didn't go back?
They Well, there was a long list of things. The first being, obviously, the place is full of military, ex-military, um, people who love the conspiracy theory talk, everything like that. Just constant, heaven for me, pretty much. Just get all the goodies, all the info. There was a buddy of mine, Nick, who was in the military. He was always sharing tidbits of information with me, whether it was about luge harvesting, adrenochrome, uh, Pizzagate, child set, the gritty stuff that you probably shouldn't be discussing in a DoD building. Unfortunately, the week that I decided not to go back because people were getting sick, Nick passed away. He was in a car wreck. They didn't say how, but it was on the way out of work. We get out of work around 5 in the morning. We're there till 6. And I guess he was hit and run. And it kind of upset me because it was sort of right after he disclosed some of this information to me. I wouldn't say immediately after, but close enough to have some kind of speculation as to why that happened. He's a great driver. He's straight edge, But after that happened, I was then called up by my boss, who they had just gotten a new director come in, a new supervisor. The previous supervisor had just gotten fired for being a womanizer, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. So they had someone else come in, and he had called me and saying, "Hey, Jess, we need you to come back in, but you have to come in and take the jab." And I said, that's not going to happen. I don't feel good right now, but I'll let you know. I was basically lying to them, trying to figure out what I'm going to do while I still have the option to figure out something, while I still have an apartment, while I still have income, while they're still paying me for just being sick. I wasn't, diagnosed with anything. I was just sick enough not to go back to work. And when they told me I was able to go back into work, even if I had it, even if I was positive, I was still allowed to. And at that point, I said, this is a little fishy. They want to probably just fire me at this point, but they want me to return my badge first.
You were like a science experiment for, like, it just seems like,
yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah, kind of like an emotional experiment with me to see how I would react to them wanting me to come back, but knowing exactly what's going to happen. HR had contacted me several times telling me that they're going to have to do something, or I'm going to have, I have to get the jab, or they're going to have to let me go. Everyone else had it. They just couldn't take the chance anymore. And so I quit. And I'm glad I did, because that's how I met you guys and the rest of the SSP community, and everyone else who, whatever else they want to discuss and think they're part of, I met all those people through this, and I'm glad I did, because it definitely put a different perspective in my life of where I am and why I decided to be here.
Yes, thank you, Jesse. We've been talking for a good 2 years, and I am grateful for your questions. I know some of the time I was like, I was being told, well, why are you talking to Jesse? He's DOD. And I'm like, I'm still signed in as a special soldier from the DOD, and I never got paid. So it's like, it didn't make sense they just kept, they just kept warning me. And
I must have said something important, because they were contacting me and lashing out on me very quickly.
So do you want to talk about that now? Or I have a real quick question. When did your apartment get flooded? And there's a lot of times where I shared all the videos that I was able to find online of Max Spears, because he also would say that, his apartment started on fire for no reason. And the day before, they had sent him a letter saying, the Ring of Fire Corporation or whatever, it's better to be cremated than, enterrar, how do you say, than be buried in the ground. And then his apartment caught on fire. Another time there was like a roach infestation. So you were telling us
Yep.
that, your apartment got flooded. When did this happen and begin?
Well, it depends which apartment you mean. It's not the first time I've had an apartment have a flood.
Oh,
Floods,
wow. You
apparently.
take your pick.
Yeah.
How far from when you left the DOD did the flood happen? What was the length of time?
Oh no, I wasn't in an apartment with a flood from the DOD. The flood happens back in 2012, almost 2013. I haven't had any issues with actually I did have a bed bug issue when it came to buying furniture, but I don't think that has to do with the DOD taking revenge on me. So
No, I'm not saying the DOD. I'm saying I'm getting ahead of myself because we know, us that have been in the secret space program, and we're taking at a young age, and also we get our memories back when we're older, but we have ties, military ties, for example, or we'll say, you know, mafia ties or whatever.
yeah,
Anybody that had a family, like for example, myself, I've had a military uncle that was in the military. That's how they got me. My great grandmother was in the military in Baja California, so it's a lineage. They take us. So I'm just wanting to know um, how you think you got taken, your memory.
the timeline of events that led me to wanting to
Investigate.
smush myself into the disclosure groups.
Yes,
Pretty
because
much.
yes. Mhm.
Well, you can go all the way back to the beginning for that one. That has to do with, and this is, mind you, this is me at 2 years ago till now, going back to these events, analyzing them, trying to figure things out, and realizing that there's a little bit weird something going on here or there in terms of being kidnapped, experimented on, the dreams, the experiences, the FBI experience I had coming to my house, the undercover agents going to the hotel, which I'll get into. Basically,
Let's start from when you were a child, when they were taking
adopted,
you to all those.
right? So basically, I found out I was adopted from my mother when I was 13. She waited until I was 13 to tell me that. But I went back into it and I wondered why. There was a reason behind that. And there's always a reason. It's just something you don't decide to do to your kid. Basically, she wasn't able to have a child, and her college roommate was best friends with a CEO of Hoffman La Roche, which was a pharmaceutical company in I think Jersey. I'm not sure where I think they're out of Jersey now. And I would always go to their house as a little kid, but there would be so many different ethnicities there of little kids that they all adopted. But there was Indian. You had I know you had a Russian child. You had German. You had a whole bunch of ethnicities, and then you had my blood sister Tamara, who for the first 4 years of my life, I never knew we were related. I would hang out with her. I would stand next to her as she blew her birthday cake out, but we never knew we were brother and sister. And for a while, I was wondering, why keep that from us? Why experiment that way? Why have us together to see if we can figure out on our own that we're related? It just, my entire childhood felt like it was a lab experiment for a while. And all they want to do is tell me that it was timing, or they didn't think I would understand what adoption was, or until I was 12 or 13. And but I liked this girl. She was a great girl, and it would be great to know that she was my sister when I actually got to see her, because after I found out, I didn't see her until I was 18. I decided to drive myself and visit her for the first time. And we're twins.
How did that go? You're twins?
Yeah, we're pretty much twins. We have the same nose, same eyes. It's pretty much same everything else, obviously, than the gender, but I thought that was pretty interesting too, that we had very similar traits and everything.
The same birthdates or?
No, no, not identical, not like that. I don't know exactly what type of twins, but definitely when it comes to the face is definitely the main go. After that, though, it got kind of interesting because she would always tell me that I had other brothers. My sister now, Tamara. This is after I'd met her. She would tell me I had another brother, but my family didn't tell me about him. And I learned that he grew up to be not 100% there. I don't know if it was drug related or what had happened to him, but he grew up to be very violent, very vicious. I think he's now 17.
What if you guys
Um,
were
sorry,
if you guys were clones?
so far.
Like an experiment of three. You never know. Because later on you were also saying that your hair changed, your eye
Yep.
color, all that.
Well, that happened a little bit more after the science fair we took. So after that, I figured, all right, something's up. I'm part of some kind of group of children who were adopted at some pharmaceutical company guy's house, very rich guy, different types of kids went there all the time, but mainly for social gatherings. And it rubbed me off the wrong way. I figured something was wrong with that. And fast forwarding a little bit to preschool now, there has been several occasions where kids have been taken out of my class, just my class. Now there was about 18 to 20 kids a class, and they would take kids out in groups and they would bring them into the local library, which was just right across the hall. This was at Woodhull Elementary in Huntington, New York. It happens. And at the time it was just preschool and kindergarten. And they would take us into these classes. And the only thing I can remember personally is a box of toys, just a cardboard box of toys, nothing fancy. And it was really old toys, like toys that were probably from kids that were our parents' grandparents. You know what I mean? These were old toys.
Usually made of wood and blocks and
Yeah, like
pulley
tin,
toys.
wood, the symbol monkey, a dreidel that you push the thing and it spins.
Yes.
Remember the
Stuff.
phone? The phone?
Yeah, there was a phone there. There was a little red phone. It didn't have a face or anything. It wasn't like those little toy phones you see today. It looked more like they were trying to be more realistic with it. And then after we would pick the toy out, they would have us sit on these stools in front of these, what I called it a laptop. Now, looking back at it, I thought it was a laptop. But this is 96. We didn't have laptops. At least I don't think we did. Or we didn't have screens that were so like basically like everything that's here right now, tablets, etc., was in front of us with these people. And we're just little 5-year-old kids. We're just, technology's cool, whatever. They would put us in front of these machines and they would put these headsets onto us, but they were old fashioned. It had a wire, and it had a beige earpiece. Kind of reminded me of the old hearing test things you get when you go to, get your hearing tested. And that's what I assumed it was in the beginning, just regular reflex tests. I can't remember a thing after that though.
You know what? Now that you're saying that, when I was a child, they would put those in our ears, and we'd have to listen to stories, and then they'd grade us on that. So I don't know.
I actually do. I do remember that. That sounds familiar. I think I remember doing that at some point because I can remember the entire building. I mean, where the office was, where the people that were observing us were standing, how many kids were in the room, the shell. But I can't remember faces. They weren't in suits. They were female. They're very formally dressed, tight, formally dressed. Just very interesting, to say the least.
Jesse, I could tell you that I have a memory of when you mentioned the library. I believe I was in first, maybe second grade, being taken to the library. we were sat on the floor. It was just a few of us, maybe 5 or 6. And I remember a woman in front of us speaking to us. And then we were given or made to watch like like one of those little old TV screens, like the old televisions, because we're probably talking
You
back
have
for
to
me and
rework the antennas and all that.
yeah, it was something, it was probably like a 9 or maybe 10 inch, because I'm just a skoshi bit older than you, so I'm going back a little bit further. So I remember sitting in front of that and just watching whatever was on the screen. So although it was further back than your experience, it sounds like they're still the same, taking you from school, going to the library, certain children, showing them things, things like that. So
Oh yeah, for sure. There was
that's
there
in
was
memory.
20
Yeah.
something kids a class, but they would only select a little handful of kids. They wouldn't give us a reason. It was just me and everyone that went to this trip with me, pretty much.
Mhm. Yeah. Mine, that memory I have is in Tucson, Arizona.
Ay, ay. You
I'm sure there's a lot going on in Arizona.
must have been with me
Yeah,
and another
that's
girl
where
from
she
the
is.
Hawaiian factory. She was also with us. It's
Mhm.
just I'm remembering this also, I was always at the library. They always had us at the library, but um this one, remember I told you, Our Lady, about there was a bunch of like TVs sets, old TV sets in front, and then I was there as a kid, and there were they had like these cereal power bars and cereal inside the TV. You could actually reach in there and grab it, and they would be programming us with these cereal things. And so weird. I turned around to my nephew in this memory, and I told him, "Don't eat the cereal because it has sugar." And the kids got mad at me because I kept telling them, don't eat it. It has a lot of sugar." I don't know. It's just weird.
Well,
They were hanging
well,
inside.
fast forward, all the cereal and their, all the stuff that they're actually putting in it, a weed killer and things of that sort. So you were
Metal,
probably getting
just
some little
straight metal
yeah,
at this point.
metals, yeah, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we get a lot of information a lot of times too. Yeah.
So going back to that though, I realized um, like what, last month pretty much, I realized that not too long after we had this first test is when they signed us up to go to this NISI science exhibit, Hall of Science rather, in I believe it was Queens, New York. And it's up and running now. You could visit this place. It used to be on the grounds of the World's Fair from 65 to 69 until I believe Alan J. Friedman in 84 decided to renovate it by building a $40,000 quantum atom that attracted a whole bunch of people. And ever since then, they were focused on predicting the future and working with today's youth to build a better future is their logo.
Yeah.
And for the 96 class, that was my class, I believe that might have been one of the first sleepovers they ever had at this exhibit, at least after the renovation. It used to be, I believe it used to be working in collaboration with the nearby college for kids who wanted to get into physics, be physicists or, biological stuff, or, basically just working with the nearby schools. And they would come in and they'd teach the kids, and they would pretty much just use the little kids that are there for the trip to help these guys learn science. And after a while, it turned into a nothing more than just an exhibit for like over 450 exhibits to be exact, of different, I believe they call it STEM projects. It's all capital STEM. Basically to figure out what your interest in is. And for me, it wasn't anything at the time. I remember going there completely unaware of everything. I remember walking around trying to figure out what I wanted to do, play with rather, just figuring out what I was doing. And I remember being grabbed by the arm by someone who worked there, and she brought me over to a machine that read energy levels and like heat signatures in your body and stuff. And it would show you a big, you'd go in front of this camera, and then there would be a big screen behind you, and it would show every single thing. Basically going there, and then we saw a screen that read your energy signals and heat signatures, and I was instantly in love. I just thought it was cool, just seeing what our insides can produce and generate. And then after that, I think they all took us to the planetary exhibit where you would sit in those dark rooms, and they'd show you the galaxies and the planets and the rotations and the distances and all that stuff on a giant projecting screen. And then, to be honest with you, I don't remember if anybody, I personally didn't know we were sleeping over there. I thought it was just a day thing. I had my mom actually visit 2 days ago, and I confronted her about this. I said, "Did you consent for me to sleep over?" And she goes, "No, I would never have consented you to sleep over at this place." And especially after I told her what happened. She said that she was told that my father was there. My father was not there. He was not a parent or guardian there. He did not sleep with us. So basically, after they had us go to this planetary thing, we didn't have pillows. I was using my hoodie I was wearing at the time to use as a pillow. I was sleeping on the floor like this. And I don't remember, they gave us like these little space blankets, like blankets you would give to like people that just were sitting outside of an ambulance or something, you know what I mean? Like just really crappy blankets. And they put us right next to the bathroom, mind you. Now, why would you put kids, 5-year-old kids, right next to a bathroom unless you expected kids to get sick that night? Which we did, terribly. They fed us apple juice and graham crackers before we went to bed. Not saying they did anything to the apple juice or graham crackers, but it was the worst sleep I've ever had, not considering I was on a floor by a bathroom, but it was just honestly, I remember it so vividly. I can remember waking up dozens of times. And now their bathroom set up in a cave. There's a small cave. It's probably from me to the window. It's not that big. And they'd have these little rainbow lights every so often in the cave that were like embedded into behind some plaster, but it looked very cool. And then it would have a bathroom door at the end. So every time I'd wake up, I'd have to struggle through this cave system, holding onto the walls, trying to figure out what the hell's going on, until every so often I would get to that light and I would push the door open and it would just be flash of light. And I wouldn't remember vomiting. I wouldn't remember using the bathroom. I wouldn't remember washing my hands. All I remember was getting right back into that bed. And that happened 15 times. Every time I would trip on kids that were sleeping next to me, I would be vomiting on kids sleeping next to me. I'd see kids leaving the same tunnel of this cave system, sick. And it just got to the point where, like, for a while, I could tell that I was still coherent and not feeling well. But then after, like, the 7th, 8th time, it was, like, zombified. Like, we just woke up, and it was just embedded. We were just like, oh, go vomit, go through this door, flash of light, get back into bed. Flash of light, back into bed. For so many times. And to the point where it was just like, I was droned. I was like a drone at this point, just walking back and forth, knowing exactly what's going on, but I was just so used to it at this point. And for a 5-year-old to go through this, it was, it was like food poisoning times 1,000. And I never knew exactly what this could have meant, but I've heard stories from dozens of people that sleeping and dreams and vomiting and being sick after sleeping could be huge indications of experimentation and or being kidnapped or taken by whatever you want to call. But it's after I had that experience, it drove me insane for the next years to come because I was seeing things. I was waking up naked at the same age. I was having the same flashes of lights hit my face while I was sleeping. but this like a car was doing a 3-point turn type of thing, but there's no way a car lights can hit my eyes from that angle. The waking up naked only happened once or twice, so I'm not really going to hold that against me, but it was pretty weird.
It could have been time travel because I've had many um encounters in the astral of being naked, and that is also time travel, and also going through wormholes. And of course it could be, the whole abuse thing that they also do. um
Unfortunately, some of these kids didn't survive after this trip, though.
I wonder if they
Um,
were doing radiation poisoning or some kind of,
Well, you
when you go through time you get, go ahead.
when he mentioned when it first started, before
the
they went to
sickness,
sleep. Pardon
it
me?
was it when I started feeling sick.
No, you said that they gave you graham crackers and
Yeah,
apple juice.
yeah. It was little plastic baggies of popcorn and graham crackers and apple juice they gave us. And I
The reason,
remember
the only
being
reason I
tired, but I
asked
don't
about
remember
that,
being drugged or anything.
you don't, because whenever you give blood, they always give you apple juice, graham crackers, because
Yeah, I have to now. Whenever I give blood for whatever reason, I need OJ. I need something, or else I get very woozy and I pass out pretty much. I
Yeah,
get very nauseous.
bio. Yeah.
yeah, because I read, and that's the first thing I thought about when you said you were given apple juice and graham crackers, that something was taken from you, blood, plasma, or something, and that was supposed to keep you from feeling sick or nauseous or maybe passing out. That's the
It
first
did
thing I
not work.
thought
It did not work.
of.
Um,
Well, you were also a child, whatever was going on shouldn't have been, you
it
know.
just but it bothers me that I never had the audacity to be like, something's wrong, guys. Wake up, teacher. Where are you? Nothing. Just felt like it was normal. Like, here, I'm going to go vomit for the 30th time. Let's just go do it. There wasn't any urgency to tell anybody, and that's what bothers me. Right, like sitting here now, is that when I went through this, I don't know why I didn't have any urgency to do anything other than just to get rid of my bile and go back to sleep. And
And you
that's
had to keep getting sicker and becoming dehydrated
Oh,
the more you
extremely.
kept
There
doing
was a water fountain halfway in that cave that I think I remember trying to drink from a lot that night. And I don't know if it was in that fountain either that was making us sick, but that was the only thing keeping me happy, was that water fountain that night.
that one fountain. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if they were trying to overlay something on you because they were copying your frequency, your aura, your vibration. I wonder if they were trying to overlay something else, another being, or if they were like using your body so that this being can exist during a certain amount of time in a certain wavelength period of time or whatever. You know what I mean? So
I do.
thank you, Susan, for coming. And Jesse's going
Hi,
over
Susan.
he's going over his school science experiment.
My kindergarten trip to the NYSCI Center in Queens. Remember that I told you about that a bunch of the kids got sick there and we never figured out what happened? So basically, after that, unfortunately, I have their names too. Nick Patricus, Axel Romero, Kate Ackerman, Kevin, I don't remember his last name, David Rosenberg, and Duncan Cameron were these kids that went to this science fair with me, and everyone got sick. And everyone remembers this because I spoke to a few of them recently, and they said, yes, I do remember being sick there. They also remember a lot more than me. They remember some kids deciding to not sleep over at the last minute, that parents came by and picked their kids up, and there was a last minute consent with some parents. There was a lot of last minute things going on before we decided to sleep there, at least me and these 5 other kids. Kevin SZE, sorry, that's his name, Kevin Z. the next year in first grade, he got thyroid cancer about a year after that trip we went to. As well as Axel, my buddy Axel, he got extremely sick right after this trip too. And I decided to look into that and wonder if this whole sleeping at a science fair thing was more than just sleeping there. Unfortunately, there's now also 2 kids who went completely crazy from this. A buddy of mine, Nick Patricus, just ran his car through several people's houses and skinned their family pets alive and left them on their front lawn. And now he is being hospitalized for schizophrenia and all the things that they assume you have, which isn't really what you have. My buddy David is been apparently hospitalized, David Rosenberg, for 16 years now. I used to see him when I was younger, but I heard something happened to him that he just needed to be locked away and under surveillance 24/7.
It sounds like the MK Ultra program they were trying to, use for
There was 2 kids. There was Duncan Cameron was supposedly transferred to a different school the same year. Long story short, I lost all my friends before first grade after this situation, and I was always wondering what happened to them. And for a while, for the first through third grade, I was just, like I said, learning how to be human again. I was so quiet. I was so confused. I was like a sponge, just soaking in the world, soaking in the kids' interactions around me, trying to figure out what's real, what I'm supposed to be learning, realizing that school is all bogus. There's really nothing important to be learning here, so on and so on. And eventually that led to another thing where as I got older, school became more and more pointless to me. At least the things that we were learning. I loved interactions with people. I was always trying to be a leader. I was sticking up for people all the time, but what we were learning just was complete crap. I wanted nothing to do with it. So one day I decided to go against my family and not go to school, which was the first time I did this. And immediately my father would start beating me and asking questions while he was doing it. Why not? You have to go, calling the police before I even got frustrated with him, just getting everything ready to go to make sure that I am under control. And when they had the police come by, I remember the police officer coming into my room, throwing me on the bed, spitting in my face and telling me how important school is, because I have to learn to be smart and have a job when I'm older and all that stuff. And I can remember looking at him and saying, "You done?" And that was basically the last time my father, he decided, I don't think he got divorced because of that, but that was the last year I saw him. He got divorced the year after. But seeing that, I'm kind of glad, because he was extremely violent when I was younger. Now that I look at it, when it came to just mild things like not wanting to go to school, just simple things like that. And him beating me and threatening me. Long story short, they threw me into a psych ward because of that. They said I was oppositional. I didn't want to do anything that authority had over me, pretty much. They needed me to be, drugged up pretty much.
They wanted you to be compliant in society. What kind of
and how do they do that? With pills. So they threw me under the bus pretty much, and I think I was 14 at this time. And
what about your mom? What did she have?
She's a social worker. I barely saw her. She was my aunt used to take care of me, and my Green Beret uncle. You could tell they were very strict. They used to take care of me all the time. My mom was always a social worker. She would come home like 3 a.m, no earlier, no later. I'd always be awake to hug her, hello, and all that. But she was always away, pretty much. I didn't have any family or parenting pretty much my entire childhood. I was alone with babysitters my entire life. But basically,
What did they do to you at the psych ward? Did they,
yeah, at the psych ward, basically they diagnosed me as oppositional, depressed, bipolar, you name it, everything. They gave me Abilify, they gave me Celexa, they gave me Geodone, they gave me, I had trouble sleeping at the time. They gave me
Seroquel?
Ambien,
Oh, God.
Ambien.
Yeah.
But the problem is with me, and I even told them I was trying to be scientific with the people too. If you guys are trying to help me, I'll give you some answers. I said, look, if I take a pill, and Ambien being a great example, when I take medicine, it works once, and then my body realizes that it's not going to take it again. And then it's a psychological thing. I can take Ambien and not get tired anymore until I decide to make myself tired. Otherwise, my body is just like, not happening. It did that one time, but we're not going down again. And I told them.
Did you eat a lot, like in your sleep? They had given me that.
They forced you to eat. Yeah, they forced us to eat.
Gross.
If you didn't, you weren't allowed to socialize, and the more you don't socialize, the crazier you go, and all that stuff. So, if you didn't eat, you didn't have fun. If you didn't have fun, you feel like you're there longer than you were. So that I ate. I pigged out there while I could.
Did they force you? They would force me to play basketball. Did they force you to play any sports
Yep.
then?
They forced us to hang out with obviously the females were separated, but on Fridays they would let us hang out with them. They'd force us to play basketball. They forced us to play sports. They would have something called the 2-2-2, where everybody would get sent to their rooms, and whoever is causing that 2-2-2 would be shot up with something. And I had that the day that I got there, which was a sedative, and I told them I didn't want it, but they said it was mandatory. And when I got there, I was completely incoherent. I think I was drooling at this point. I was in a wheelchair and they were wheeling me up. I wasn't able to talk. They wheeled me right into a little meeting with Gail. I remember her name, Gail. She was the social worker working there. And I remember them going up to me, and I was completely incoherent. I didn't have the ability to speak my mind, tell them anything, figure out why I was there, nothing. I was just completely held against my will for the first week of being at this place. Until I started being I started walking around, I woke up, I started talking to people, they started seeing that I was being more human, So after that, I would be woken up at 4:30 in the morning every day for 2.5 months. And my blood would be taken. They'd ask me, Jess, we're here to take your blood. Okay, here you go. And the first 2 times, I'm like, all right, it's a hospital. They're going to take your blood, right? After the first 2 weeks of every morning, me waking up just to hold my arm out half asleep to get blood taken, even my roommate, who was slightly not fully there, was like, why are they doing this to you? I was like, I have no idea. It must be, I must have good blood. I couldn't figure it out. It was honestly the scariest and most draining thing, so to speak, of my life. Until the one point where it was probably getting on about the 16th, 17th time of being woken up for blood, and me literally slapping the needle out the doctor's hands and being like, not today. And him being like, okay, no more. And it hit me. I could have said that 17 days ago and not had any of this happen. It was all with my consent. It was until I said no, they were going to use me and use me and use me. And that was my first time I was hospitalized. I found out that my blood was extremely important to these people.
Do you have any idea what is in your blood or what your blood type is or what?
I actually tried doing that. I tried calling up Huntington Hospital in Long Island to figure it out. They gave me a hardball around it. I have to figure it out. Either it's, I think, you can get it for free now, can't you? You can just ask for free.
Not at the Red Cross. They charge. Back in the day, when I was a kid, I have a card since I was a kid because I used to give blood all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. Not anymore. I protect my blood like it's gold at this point.
Not anymore. I don't give blood anymore. My friends were like, hey, well, you know, I need extra cash, so I go give out my plasma. I'm like, hell no, even that's gold to me. And they can't understand why. It's like, no, it's my lifeline. Now, if you look at your hands, I've done many videos where you just look at your hands, and if you have an M sideways, that gives you an indication you're the Merovingian bloodline.
Yep.
There you go.
Sideways M. Both
But
hands.
but you still, you know, don't take my word for it. You got to get, you know, your little card there.
But going back to that, now, after realizing that these kids were getting sick, disappearing, changing schools, cancer, everything that could just possibly go wrong, losing my friends, they brought us back into that room. Now, it wasn't obviously the same kids, but I was brought back into there because I was still at that school. Now, the weird thing about this was the Woodhull Elementary, the preschool through kindergarten, that's all it was. And then Washington Primary School, which is also in Huntington, was grade 1 through 3. Miss Labasso was first grade, Miss Turner was second, and Miss Fobbs was third grade. And then after that, we went back to 4th grade, but now the school that I went to kindergarten became school for my 4th through 6th grade. So basically going back to the same school that I went to for kindergarten, now for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. It was easy because I knew the layout of the school, but it was just, I've never seen that happen before. It was almost like a whole, like a different reality. And I just, you know, this elementary never existed. It was always an intermediate school. And it's funny because if you look it up, there's no listing for it anymore. There's no information, there's no reviews, there's no number. It's just intermediate now. But there's still a listing saying that at one point it existed as an elementary school, but there's no like documentation of it other than Google Maps listing it. So I was wondering, I mean, I know schools do this sometimes, but do you think there's some kind of interesting tidbit going on there, why they would bring us back to the school to go through higher grades and then have us do this testing once again, where they take toys out, line us up in front of these screens and do the whole spiel again?
Oh yeah, there must be something underground that they had to, you know, put in there or open up to take you down there, you know.
And that's what it had me curious with those box toys. Remember, what was the reason behind them? Was there a list of things they wanted us to choose from, but the only way we can choose them is by choosing a toy? You know, and they'd be like, all right, well, this child chose this toy. Let's put them under these programs or these simulations or whatever.
Yeah.
Or was it the fact that we were going to be examined again the same exact way, and they wanted to see if we chose the same exact toy that we chose the first time, to see if we had memory or recollection or anything that had to do with the previous time they decided to experiment with us?
That, yes. And also I've heard other stories online. I don't remember the title, but that, you know, and I have memories too of a phone. And I told Power Lady about this a few months ago. But they try and in the, we'll call it the Illuminati school, when they're preparing witches or whatever, or they're using kids when they're small for these experiments, they will, for example, what they did with me is they placed a dagger in my heart. They, because apparently I chose a dagger. You're going to war or whatever, what are you going to choose? Whatever you choose as a child, they put it in your system somehow. I don't remember, like I said, the name of this video, but it's a lady that was talking about what they do in these covens or whatever experiments that they do. And they is the same thing with like with the werewolf thing, that if you want to talk about that, the dog that was like hitting your chest, then you're waking up.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely get to that. That's
But
probably the biggest reason why I'm here.
Right, it could be something like that. But go ahead, Jesse. Thank you.
Well, I guess you could say there's a good dog in my life too. From ages 5 till 6, I believe after probably after this science exhibit and the vomiting and the friends disappearing and all that. Same house. Now, funny thing about this house, my childhood home, my mother had bought it from a couple who happened to live, who now live, well, at the time lived next door. The lady that those people bought the house, Barbara Friedman, the daughter of the physicist who remodeled the science exhibit that I got sick at. His daughter lived at the house that I grew up at. It only talks about the spouse. It doesn't talk about the daughter, but I spent money and did that been verified thing to look it up. And apparently my name pops up in 1984 too. I'm not from 1984, but if you look me up, it says I was alive in 1984 at that house with Barbara Friedman, who apparently was the daughter of that Alan Jade Friedman. I thought it was interesting how it had to correlate to the place I visited now at my childhood home. Unfortunately, now my childhood home is owned by a couple with the last name Crowley. Yeah.
And remember
I don't like that, that's for sure.
you would send me the pictures? Hey, there's Crowley here and Crowley there.
Yeah, I was driving to New York. There was a truck with Crowley on it right in front of me as I'm talking about Crowley. So, yeah, and I dated a girl with the last name Crowley. Long story short, Crowley follows me everywhere. The fact that her mother, the first thing her mother ever told me was, "I'll do," not "Hi Jesse, nice to meet you. I'm Nikki's mother." It's just "I'll do." Like, okay, I'm a lab rat. I'll do. You know, that's
like she said to you to her daughter looking at you, "He'll do," like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, he'll do. That's it. Like, okay. She's a news anchor too. You know, so she works for the media. Stuff like that. But skipping all that stuff, the Crowley stuff definitely followed me around for a while. That's something I'm looking into on the side. Basically, though, after that happened, there was a few times where I would be hanging out with friends on my own road, and I would see this Saint Bernard appearing out of nowhere, like in the middle of my road, directly in front of my home too, this house, and staring at me. And I had seen the movie Cujo at this time too, so yeah, I was a little worried, but I was I was the only one that could see it. I would, "Hey, do you see this? It's huge. It's staring at us." And every time we would look at it together, it would be gone. But every time I would be like, "There it is," it would be staring at me in the same exact spot. And I'm like, "There's no way." It just ran across the street and then back at the same, like, there's no way. And this happened a few times, and I would do a hypothesis to myself. I'd be like, "All right, he's looking with me. It's not there." I'd look by myself. It's there. Until I ran down the road and I ran into my mom's kitchen. I'm like, "Mom, I'm going crazy." You know, "Oh, that's nice, dear." That's pretty much what I left it off as, until it happened again. Now, when it happened again, I didn't feel awkward or scared or confused. I felt a sense of everything at the home front is okay. Don't worry about us, type of thing. Like, you're doing what you have to here. Don't worry about what we're working on over here. You're fine. Don't worry about us. That, like a comforting feeling, not that I'm exactly protected, but that whatever it is that's bothering me, that subconsciously, don't worry about it. Like, we got you. Is the feeling I got. And after that feeling I got, ironically, my actual dog, Dallas, was nearly hit and run in the same exact spot that dog had appeared in. And very quickly, she ducked under it was a black Suburban, ironically, and she just ducked under it and she survived. But it happened to be in the same exact spot that guardian dog appeared at to me twice. It didn't appear in my room. It was right on the street, not on a sewer hole or anything, just right in the middle of a street, a 90-degree angle hill I lived on. So you can imagine how difficult it is to imagine a dog be in the same exact spot without having to move, scratch itself, nothing, just blankly staring at you, waiting for a response. And I looked up into that, and it's apparently a good sign. I'm not too sure exactly what it means, but hopefully someone in the audience or maybe one of you three has an idea of what a Saint Bernard being could be. Some people told me grays, but instantly I thought
No,
that seems a little too dark, right off the bat.
no, it could be from Sirius B because the dog men like Anubis. I've spoken to Anubis several times. Lola, she's my German Shepherd that came to me. Dogs, for this sake of our conversation, are protectors.
Yes.
So,
And I did have a regression that I was told I was a dog fighter pilot on Sirius B, I believe it was, not A. There's apparently a huge difference.
Sirius B,
Yeah.
right? Mhm. And
So
yeah.
so I put that into 2 and 2, and it was interesting because I did have a lot of weird instances as kids, and then when people tell me I lived a past life as a dog fighter pilot, it hit me, it struck me.
That's so cool. Did you wanna, because we're talking about dogs, we also have the dog men, and then we have the werewolves that are from Pluto. Those are not too good that I know of. I've had a few incidences with the blue dogman, but did you want to tell the audience? You can send me the picture again because I don't have it right now. But when you went out, it was a full moon. We were talking. The night before the full moon, and then that day after, you sent me a picture of your foot, and it's like covered in mud or something.
It was my entire foot was covered in fuzz, and at first I assumed it was just when your sock gets wet and it'll rub fiber off onto your feet. No, this wasn't from my sock. This was like I slept like I walked barefoot outside at one point while I was sleeping, because both my feet were like that, and my socks weren't black, but the gook on my feet were. So it was just a little confusion, to be honest.
Sounds like you went to bark to the moon, bark at the moon.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some dreams where I was, and mind you, this is when they forced me on medication, when I was younger. This is basically, hey, Jess, you have to take the medication. We're not going to let you go home. Sure, I'll take it. Lying, but basically, for a while, I would dream that I was in all fours and I would be running angrily towards something, away from something, but it would be wherever I was sleeping. It wouldn't be the woods, or it would be a perfect replica of the room I was in, like wherever I was sleeping at the time. And it would always just be a couple 5-10 seconds in, and I would run towards something very angrily, and then I would get sucked back into my body somehow, and then I'd go right back into all fours, all angrily. And this happened about a few times, but I thought it might have had to do with the medicine they had me on, because I didn't have any crazy dreams about being thrown out of bed just to get back into bed, just to find out that I was already in bed sleeping. And I had dreams like this constantly, of me being thrown out of bed, thrown into furniture, in pain, struggling to get back into bed, only to figure out, hey, I'm already asleep. And it drove me kind of crazy for a while.
So you would see yourself, and then is that the same?
I would see myself sleeping all the time. I would see myself being hurt in my dreams all the time. I would see myself being flung out of bed occasionally. The biggest example would be that time that I explained before we went live. When I went to that hotel, I'll have to figure the name out. They changed the names since I had that incident there. It was around Halloween time. I remember that. And it was basically after my apartment had that flood, I was forced to go to the hotel, obviously. And I remember the first night, I think me and a bunch of friends were just hanging out in front of the hotel, just minding our own business. And an old styled van pulled up to us, and two guys come out and instantly decided to just ask us questions, check my car. And I told them, I said, I have a blade in my car. I always had a knife. And I said, you could fingerprint it. You'll find mayonnaise on it. I literally used it to cut sandwiches. I was being cool with them. And then they're like, oh, okay, don't worry. We're just here for a disturbance. I'm like, we haven't been inside yet. We don't know. They're like, oh, okay, thank you. And they just drove away. And then 10 seconds later, 2 more guys pulled up. They looked a little bit more not human than these first 2 guys. I'll say that. They were very Mr. Smith-like, just dead inside, just no light in their eyes, just angry, just weird. And I went up to them. I said, hey, your friends were just here. No reason to talk to us. They just rolled the window up and drove off. Not a word. And I said that to them. I said, hey, your friends were just here. Don't worry about it. And they're like, okay. Drove off. Mind you, they used really old cars, undercover. You don't want them to think they're in Suburbans or whatnot. Long story short, after that, me and my friends, we hung out. We went back into the hotel room, and then I had a buddy I haven't seen in a couple of years. He decided to stop by. We went on to the fire escape in the back of the hotel, and he was smoking a cigarette. I was just hanging out. I don't smoke cigs. And we saw a door open in front of us, to the right of us, and it was twins, identical twins, blonde twins, like the typical surfer type of hair look guys, which was weird. They looked just like my friend who passed away, which is very weird. My friend Micah. They were covered in blood and they were smiling, but the way they were smiling was so cynical, so weird. We just looked at them. We looked at each other and were like, that is possibly the gayest yet creepiest thing I've ever seen. And excuse me for saying that, but that's the first thing that went through my mind. 2 shirtless boys covered in blood, holding hands, smiling, going into the next room. It's weird, especially since I was sleeping 6 doors down from them. After he finished his cigarette, we didn't think anything of it. We went back inside to watch TV. And I guess an hour later, we heard walkie-talkies and police radios going off in the hallways and all that stuff. And we decided, investigate a little bit. So I was hungry. I was like, all right, I'm going to go see what happened. I'm going to pretend I'm getting KFC, see what's up, look in the room. And as I walked by, there was a body on the floor of a lady, and the entire bed was covered in blood. I mean, the bed was white, not at the end of that. And there was about six officers inside, a squad car at every exit and entrance, and a guy standing at the bottom of every staircase, the ones that led outside and the ones that were inside that led outside. They didn't even question me. They didn't look at me, nothing. I just walked right by, saw the nastiness and decided to get my food. And as I came back, they were gone. They were already gone. This was only like a 15, 20-minute trip I took, but they're already gone. I would assume a murder. And I don't know why I didn't tell them. The kids were in the room right there. I didn't want to get killed that night, I guess, myself. But I could have easily just said, right there, guys, they walked into the room right across this, so I didn't do that. I should have. But after that, that's when I had the craziest dreams of my life. The only ones that I remember 100% detail, because of the fact that it left me with physical bruises after. Basically, so a reason I brought all these up is because I thought chemicals and being released might play a role in all of this, having these crazy dreams, these astral projections, these situations that happen. I always wanted to look into the science behind it before just automatically thinking I'm a Supersoldier or whatever, So there was the instance where the death happened. I watched the movie Doom recently, where they go into the Mars base and go after the Supersoldier program stuff, and they get turned into giant behemoths and hulks. And I went to bed just before watching that. So, I figured, all right, this is probably all, but this dream haunts me to this day, or both these dreams do. So she had went home, and I had decided to, I guess, watch the rest of the movie and then go to sleep. Instantly, it wasn't like I was first person immediately. I was third person for a while, and I slowly morphed into the person that I was portraying in that dream or whatever simulation, whatever you'd like to call it. And it was in a lab, from what I remember. Very large doors, like Power Lady was discussing earlier. These doors that are clearly not for humans because they're so massive and just pointless, just a waste of money to be that big for humans. But they were just the sliding doors, glass on all. It was clear glass on the top, but it was like glazed glass on the bottom, probably about waist height for like a 5'10" person. Not these 8 foot, 12 foot tall things. I remember being very sneaky. I was wearing black suits of some sort. I had a screen on my wrist, almost like I had an iPad on my wrist. Actually, I think it was my left side. And yes, it was my left side. I had entered this room. All it was just a metal table, simple metal table, not anything I'd seen in, at least on this planet, or at least above ground. And there was a little checklist next to it, but surprisingly, there was a pile of dead bodies in the corner of the room, like just decaying. I had looked at my wrist and I saw a motion detecting thing go off. And my first reaction was, let me dive in this dead pile here and pretend I'm part of that dead pile. For a while, it worked. I remember I was like this, slowly looking up at this Draco, now that I know as an Alpha Draconian, wearing a science lab as going through a checklist with his back to me. And I'm looking up and I'm like, wow, he actually thinks I'm part of this dead pile. I think I'm cool at this point. I'm like, wow, whatever this simulation is, I'm acing it so far. And I'm creeping up on this guy's back, and it's just as soon as I was about to go in for the takedown, an alarm goes off, and something in my body went off before the actual building alarm went off, because my reaction was so quick that I was already, like, my heart was already racing before the actual noise of the alarm was going off. And instantly, I remember running into the hallway of this just very bright white and glass everywhere hallway. To have this, now this is where it gets a little bizarre, a demon dog that looked like the little headless dog from Doom, the movie with The Rock, not any of the remakes, coming out of this portal, charging me, like angry, just running at me. In my peripheral vision, I remember this draconian smirking at me like, you're not getting away from this thing. That's why we have them. And I was jumping into a vent system. And that was my first reaction, vent system. And this thing kept hitting me in my stomach with its chest. I didn't see what was going on down there, but I could assume it wasn't good. All I could see was me trying to pull myself up onto a vent like this and being a pinata down there for this thing. And I don't remember at what point it happened, but every time it would ram me, I would phase out of this dream and I would go back into the hotel room and I would see myself sleeping, and I'd be in a fetal position. And I usually sleep in fetal position anyway, but I was like real curled up. And every time this creature in the dream would hit me, it synced perfectly with my fetal position and it would nudge me ever so gently in real life. And I would watch myself get nudged in bed. And I was like, why am I seeing myself? Why am I looking in a dream right now? Why am I looking at myself in bed? And it flash forwarded back and forth at least 3 times in between seeing me trying to get into a vent system and then seeing me getting knocked off the bed, until I was so close off to the bed that free fall feeling you get when you run out of room and you put something down and you catch yourself. I woke up like that, and I had one arm on the floor and I was up like this, and I was like, what the hell just happened? I was completely off my bed. I've never moved from a dream before. And instantly I just lifted up my shirt and I saw bruises on my ribs exactly where, because I woke up like this, like holding the exact spot. Heart was racing, throat, just dry. I just felt like I was literally getting rammed by this. And the main reason that it sits with me, not that well, but it sits with me, is because I woke up in pain. I woke up off the bed, halfway off the bed. That's not a dream. That's not a normal occurrence for sure. And then, not to get too far into it, but there was another dream right after this one, almost immediately, as soon as I could muster up the strength to go back to sleep after, and then, so instantly going back into this next dream now, this is where a lot of people assumed I was part of Solar Warden.
So Jesse, real quick, before you go to the other story, it just sounded like those were DARPA dogs being sent to you, and it also reminds me of the movie Resident Evil. But
exactly like that. Deformed, definitely more deformed than the ones in Resident Evil that I couldn't remember. But going on after that, the second dream, this is occurring right after I woke up, relaxed myself, told myself that it was nothing but a dream, and went back to sleep. Almost immediately, as soon as I hit REM sleep or whatever you want to call it, I was right back into another facility, except this time it was a planet. We were outside of this facility, and it was an underground parking garage. Outside of this underground parking garage, there was a gas station that I can recall. It had an eagle on it, but it was a cybernetic looking eagle. It wasn't like a bird eagle. It was it was red and black. That was the colors of it, red and black, and it was an eagle. And but it was like just a regular gas station logo. And that's the only thing I can remember outside of this dream. After we had passed this gas station, I was with two people wearing blue uniforms, slightly this light blue color, skin tight though. I don't remember my uniform because I never looked down at my own arms or whatever. We were going through this parking garage, and I remember everything was flooded. The entire facility, everything was just underwater. There was overgrowth on the buildings. It just seemed like a human population that was no longer there, or possibly a different utopian area. Instantly, I told these people I was with to stand on top of these cars to avoid the water, because it was up to our shins at this, actually up to our calves at this point. And I told them to get up top of the cars to avoid the water. I'm going to go check out what's up here. I took some elevator. I don't remember if it was down or up. As soon as I got off the elevator, to my surprise, there were several dead scientists on the floor, human scientists, human people. Some were Asian, some were, it was mixed. Didn't see what killed them, I don't think I even left the elevator door for this. Instantly, I saw there were tanks full of different colored stuff. One was pink, that's all I can remember. But it wasn't broken in, it was broken out. The glass was out, so something broke out. Noticing this, then I looked to my right, and I saw what I described at the time as big gorillas, or gorillas wearing armored battle tunics is the best way I can explain it. Eating something. They were hauled around the floor eating something, and it looked like they were being experimented on, or I don't know what happened. But instantly, I knew I just had to shut the elevator door and go back down to the people I was guiding. I did that, and I remember walking up the side that you would drive your car on to get to the top of the parking garage, and that's where the dream had ended. And then I remember waking up and wondering what had just happened. One being bruised, scarred, seeing myself being attacked, and then going right back to sleep and seeing another instance of another society and seeing creatures hurting scientists, and it was very confusing for me.
that kind of sounds like the movie Tomorrow War that Power Lady told me about. And
Tomorrow War?
Tomorrow War, sorry. And then also it reminds me of Jupiter ascending in the beginning of the movie when they say
Jupiter ascending. That's what I was told that they looked like. I didn't see Jupiter ascending until 2 years ago, when someone told me to watch it. So for the longest time, I was calling these creatures just behemoths, monsters, whatever. That's it. Until on James Ring's channel, someone had brought up the fact that they were assassinating giant lizard beings, also known as Draco. And instantly in my head, I'm like, holy crap, I don't have to use the word behemoth anymore. I could actually give them a name now and not think I'm completely crazy because, hey, there's this girl that is killing these things too. I'm not the only one, you know, and that's basically what got me into this whole SSP stuff is there's something with my dream and there's something with her. Let me just explore it a little bit. Unfortunately, it was a bad idea because I was lashed at and attacked by multiple people in that group, telling me I was numerous things under the sun, so to speak. Every program you can think of, MDF, Nachtwaffen, Solar Warden, Black Dragon, Montauk program. I remember just because I said I was from New York, people would come at me saying I was in Montauk program, left and right. I didn't know how to approach this at first, so I would kind of just listen to it and nod my head and agree and say, okay, I'll just continue. And eventually it got to the point where people would text me, call me, and message me privately saying they want to use apps that no longer track your conversation. They delete your conversation after 5 minutes of them typing it.
That was a Signal app when I was infiltrated too. They told me that I had to be on that one, and it made
Only I can talk to them on that app about this stuff, nowhere else. It's a disclosure group. Why are you going to hide this stuff behind another app or behind another group of people? So I listened, I spoke to them about this stuff on this app, and it was scary, honestly. I would wake up constantly to messages, paragraphs of missions that they went on with alternate me's, alternate alters, other universe me's, you name it, just not me, but every other me you can think of, and saying that I'm jumping into portals to meet myself in this timeline so that we could integrate and become one and get stronger and fight back and all these. We have secret places we meet up on different planets, on beaches and cave systems. And I was told that there was a group that studies the Apophis, is what they, apparently it's a giant comet or something, but there's also a giant snake, Apophis, a whole crazy conspiracy cult group that worships this evil thing. And apparently they were using my shadow altar in a different dimension to bring about bad timelines to our timeline. They were using my abilities to bring death and destruction to our timeline. And here I am trying to figure out what happened to me in kindergarten, and people are telling me I am destroying other timelines in another universe. And I'm like, how am I supposed to use this? How is this going to help me at all with anything other than confusing and putting me in circles and making me wonder and wonder and wonder until I completely forget about the things that actually should be spoken of.
But then they were saying that you were somebody's kid and that they were saving you.
Yes, they.
But yeah,
The thing they told me not to share. Will Glover and Shauna Shirley were telling me not to share this with people. That I was their star child in a way. Like we had all our DNA combined at birth, or at least at my birth, and they used my adoption story and the fact that I was a surrogate baby to try to trick me into this or whatever, you know. Throw some shit at the wall, see if it sticks, right? So they told me that I was basically made with their DNA and had all their abilities and psionic abilities and powers and programs and everything that they went through, I was part of. And now together in La La Land, we're going to meet up and fight back against everything we've been part of. And they were telling me that they were rescuing me from London out of a school that worked on children who turned them into werewolves. And that happened. They told me this not too long after I explained about a dream I had that I turned into a wolf, where I was saying I was angry and running. That's all I said. And first thing they said was, oh yeah, we rescued you from the school. You're a werewolf. It didn't stick. They had Rocco Fowler, and I feel really bad for that guy. He was really trying to get some points across, and he got backlash pretty badly. And for a while, people were using the guy to get at me to figure out if I was part of Montauk solely based on the fact that I'm from New York, Long Island, New York, and nothing else. No, nothing else. Just no one saying I recognized him. I had plenty of people point to me and say, I remember you in this outfit. I remember you in Mars Defense. I remember Matt Tracy constantly telling me he recognized me a little bit. And I can't say everyone in the community was mean or at least confusing or trying to confuse me. But, there was a few people being nice. I could thank Tony Rodriguez for reaching out to me and telling me to worry about people planting seeds and trying to muddy the waters. And if you're really trying to figure out your truth, do the research on it and figure out your truth, not what other people are telling you you're part of. And I did that. And that has to do with my whole kindergarten trip all the way up to here and seeing things and avoiding hospitalizations and all those bad things that happened to me as a child. But when it comes to going on different planets and off-world stuff, and there's been so many credible people telling me that they know who I am. And one of the biggest complaints I had, I hate the government. You guys know that. They were telling me I was part of Northrop Grumman, a part of a werewolf unit, leader of some unit who was being ran by some guy named General Hendricks, who goes by Icarta Chase on Facebook. Now, this is Will telling me this. Now I'm messaging some random guy named Icarta Chase on Facebook saying, hey, man, apparently I was under you. You're some draconian general. I mean, it just seems silly to me. I felt like I was prying on these people's lives, trying to get a story for myself here. And I'm like, this is not right. I don't want a story for myself because I don't believe in any of this. I was just trying to get to the bottom of my truth, and everyone else wanted me to have a piece of theirs.
Yeah. I've had many memories of the mission and then the old man there being there. And JP told me that Will Glover was the old man and that I couldn't say anything and that he was once his lover and he was a female and was pregnant with his child. So it's like, I just can't. It's like, no, I do, however, have a memory of you. And
Will Glover is not the old man.
I know he's not. And JP is not fucking Pinder either, or Lucifer. But anyway, Jesse, I do have a memory that's how when you reached out to me, I said, I have a memory of you. And Susan was there and it was like a concrete pool without water, and I'm holding you in a flask in blue water, and you had that red hair with the bowl cut, and I was like taking you out of there. Then
I had a bowl cut for a while as a kid. Unfortunately, it was the ugliest haircut of my life, but I had a bowl cut growing up for a while. Yes. It was blonde hair though, platinum blonde.
I remember you with like reddish blonde. But anyway,
I dyed my hair. I tried dyeing my hair again blonde when I was older, but it just came out red. It was horrible.
Yeah, and I remember your dimples, and you just were such a sweet kid. But anyway, where has this led you now? Because you have sent me.
It's led me to realizing that there is more co-intel going on, and things that I've learned in the DOT. Luckily, how to spot these things, and knowing exactly what to look for, and the type of people, and the timeline of things they do, and how many groups they visit, and how quickly and how fast they want to get this info out, and how much it corroborates with everything else that's being spewed out at a weekly basis. And every time you eventually see these people, you're like, either he's going to be suckered in, or he knows exactly what's going on, and these people are getting suckered in. But there's no in between. And unfortunately, I've been seeing a lot of people being, I wouldn't say used, but taken advantage of in some aspects for their information, thinking that maybe it's all true, maybe it's not, maybe it's all simulation. But just stop believing everything just because someone says it. I might have like 30 different programs I was told I was part of, but not a single one resonates with me. Not a single one. And I had people telling me, if I don't get my act together, if I don't start believing in God and start fighting back and all this stuff, that I'm screwed forever. At one point, I got them so mad at me, they told me that in every single timeline, I kill myself, in every single timeline. And I said, what if I do? I'm joking with them. I said, what if I do it here?
That's
And they
bullshit.
said, well, we've seen that timeline too.
That's bullshit. That's what I'm telling you.
Bullshit.
They plant the seeds in you.
Yeah.
And JP is very famous for doing this. Oh, I remember
This
you
wasn't
in this
JP.
timeline. I remember you.
JP just thought I was part of Nachtwaffen. JP was the only thought I was part of Nachtwaffen for one reason. Only one reason, and I don't think he was ever trying to assume I was part of anything. We had a meeting, and I honestly don't remember what we were talking about. It was when everyone else was just feeding and feeding and feeding me. So I was just kind of just saying, I don't want this. And basically it was, I lifted my arm up in the air like this, just kind of to explain like this. And he thought I was doing the Nazi symbol. And instantly he was like, you sure I don't know you? I was like, no, dude, you don't know me. I'm not I'm not Nachtwaffen SS. I'm not from a program. They couldn't handle me. I mean, all right. So for example, I remember being in another facility. This is not a dream. I was taken away again for not wanting to go to school again. And it was in a giant bubble. There was me and 3 other people. No one else knew why they were there. They were just saying, one girl got in a fight with her teacher. But you bring her to a psych ward for that? And one little 5-year-old didn't let her friend use a computer. You bring her to a psych ward for that? I didn't want to go to school. We were in a room. They made us sleep together, but it was constantly surveilled. Like no TVs, nothing. We had people around us all the time, awake. And every so often, they would bring us into this room, and this lady would ask me questions. She would be like, "Do I think I have superpowers? Have I ever had premonition? Have I ever had dreams come true? And I've had plenty of dreams come true. I've had dreams where I learned how to ride a bike. The next day, boom, learned how to ride a bike. I've had a dream where I learned how to drive a car. The next day, I got my license. It was, I've had stuff like that. I've seen family members pass away before they've actually passed away. I've seen them in dreams at places that we go to as in my childhood. It was a pizza place. A week later, my grandmother passed away after seeing her at this pizza place, but it was with everyone else that passed away. I've had weird stuff, but knowing this lady is most likely not a good person, I jokingly said to her, yes, I do have superpowers. Every time I sit in a place longer than 30 minutes, it seems to start heating up. And she looked at me and she's like, all right, that's enough. And then she just checked some stuff off and sent me on my way. And then I'm not falling for that shit. I know exactly what was going on. Subconsciously, I didn't know anything. I was just like, yeah, I heat things up, lady, when I sit on them. What do you want me to say? I'm not falling for that crap. I knew exactly what was going on. I've been through it enough, probably at other, realities, whatever you want to call them, and I've been through it. I know exactly what's going on, and I'm not falling for it again. And that's what mostly this is about, not falling for it. And in the SSP right now, there is a lot of falling for it. And I'm trying to help people out, realizing that there's more than just heroics, really, period. There's more than just that. There's more than the heartbreaking stuff and the rape and the kidnapping. And no one wants to hear it, but also you got to realize there is so much bullshit going on this side of things, on this hollow ground, on this planet, on this, timeline or whatever. There's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't even know about, but yet you want to focus and have everyone's attention be into outer space or inner or space. I just don't see how you can, yeah, exactly, to do with the cabal. The cabal, I don't know why I have so much hate for them, but I do. I had the most hate for them out of everyone, out of the government, out of COINTEL, SSP bullshitters, out of everyone else. The cabal is number one on my list of people I hate. Couldn't tell you why, other than the main reasons that we know what they're doing to our planet, but there's more to them, and that's really what I want to get to the bottom of. I'm kind of past the MK Ultra. I don't want to get past my kindergarten stuff yet. There's plenty to look into in that. But I felt like I was here to fight these people for some reason. The evil people, the Kabbalistic, the people who have ties with bloodlines and the parents from back in the day, and all those I forgot what you call them. You can edit this out, but I forgot the name for it.
It's okay.
Do you remember the name? It was the family, but I forgot the names of the family, the people that originated the bloodline.
The Rockefellers, the Abrasics, all those.
The Abrasics, yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what I find is, you know, I just was talking to a lady 2 days ago, and, you know, she said, so and so, as soon as I said that I had a memory, you know, of me fighting someone, this guy started talking to me and saying all kinds of things. You know, you were a commander, I was a lieutenant, whatever, and we were in a love, you know, thing, and we were in love, and then he's over here trying to get her into the sex kitten thing again, and she said she had to block him, and it's like, it's crazy how sex trafficking is within the SSP community. And I've talked about this before. It's like, as soon as somebody's out there saying, yeah, I think I'm a super soldier, I have these memories, bam, you know, they want to get them into the circle. And then the next thing you know is, hey, can you send me a picture of you being naked or whatever? It's like, what the heck? It's crazy.
Are you serious? Because nobody's done that to me.
They did it to
They
me.
would still be breathing.
They did it to me. They did it to this lady. They did it to Kim Murphy. Remember we did that video where they freaking kidnapped her and shit.
Yeah, I've seen her picture, but apparently she gives that one freely.
And she's still married. And I told her, hey, you gotta quit that sex kitten altar. And a lot of the people, I'm not kidding, some of the
So you're talking about Kim? Sorry, I was using the bathroom.
Yeah, Kim Murphy. And then also some of the people recently are still stuck, you know, with different partners, and they're not focused on the mission. They're just like sex.
They're focused on the narrative. They're focused on what pushes exposure, and it's not the exposure you want. It's
Right.
Well, it pushes distraction, really.
And to rob people of their loosh, and you know what, and looking with
and their time, really.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't tell you. I mean, I am so glad when I actually had these dreams, I didn't push hard enough to get into this disclosure. I could have talked to any of these people in 2014, 15, and anytime I wanted. I am very glad I didn't, because I feel like at that point, I would have been just as confused or just as used at this point as everyone else is, trying to expose all this stuff when it really, in hindsight, it's not really exposing anything.
And then you have these conferences that you have to pay for and go speak, but why? Because they want to rob you of
Right, you got to pay to walk in the door. You got to pay to eat the food.
Sorry.
You got to pay to sleep there. You got to pay to speak there.
You gotta pay for them to take you the Hilton, you know, because
Pretty soon they're gonna have oxygen mat. You got to pay for the air that you got to breathe. There's no. I mean, that David Said guy is a dick. I'm sorry, but he is just beyond bullshit. And he, you know, if I would punch him in the face if I ever went there. I can't stand. I can't stand businessmen like that.
Oh, he said that me and Frank would have to pay, and that we couldn't present together. I said, well, we are each other's evidence. You know, I'm not so concerned about talking about a lot of stuff because I found what I was looking for. And I'm kind of like in a mind that I'm at an age where I should be able to be retired, and they should just leave me the hell alone, you know?
Or paid for it at this point.
And give me my pension and restitution, and give me a med bed, because I'm tired of all this shit. I don't want to be involved in everybody's, oh, do you remember this, remember that, because I remember enough trauma. I remember 12 plus contracts, I don't want to play those games. I went through what, 4 or 5 timelines just to get to this one where I was killed, just to get to Frank. And even coming cross country, when I found him this time, I saw a timeline collapse where we had been killed and we didn't even make it to Illinois. So yeah. And I'm just fed up. And I even remember the beginning of the Ukraine war that I was flying super soldiers from different planets and stuff into the Ukraine. Don't know why, didn't know who I was working for, but I woke up and no, I transported a few super soldiers. So, I mean, when do we get to retire?
I always
When,
say that it's like, pay us what you owe us. My body is like, I'm gonna have neck surgery now, like you, Susan. I had my lower done. I don't know. They might be putting a cage in me. I don't know, but it's like enough is enough. And when I finally said, hey, where the fuck is our money? Because back then I was like, you guys owe us. We're worth millions and millions of dollars, but here we are, struggling every fucking month. And then I looked at a video with Kim Possible or Kim Godwin looking at the camera and saying, you that want your money, you should just be quiet and join us while we go through this wormhole and go through this new earth, through CERN and with all the other agencies. And it's like, wow.
Just
too,
more
I don't want
opium.
to. I don't want to go with the Luciferians or the Satanists. I don't. That's what looks like our two choices are right now. And I'm not Team Lucifer or Team Satan. I'm team. Let's do the right thing. Let's stop trafficking.
Children, let's say the sex trafficking, people from sex trafficking and all that stuff.
That's one thing I definitely want to dive deeper into, at least researching, is figuring out exactly who's in charge of all that and where do you start. Do you work your way from the bottom or do you work your way from the top? How do you get noticed is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
So basically, after everyone started telling me these things, I decided to step out of the circus, so to speak, for a little bit and from a bird's eye view, watch everything that goes on. And I've noticed a lot of people are continuing to be roped into this after me, the same exact way it happened to me. And as I'm watching them get used, I can't help it but want to come back and try to figure out how to help these people without them getting sucked back into the matrix that they are so proud of themselves that they finally escaped, but now they're trapped again. And now we need to, let's get them out.
Thank you, Jesse. Anything anybody else wants to say before we end this? And we can do another video at another time, Jesse. It's no big deal. Thank you for coming on. How can they reach you, or are you just gonna have them put the comment?
Well, I don't have social media anymore. I just recently made a Facebook. I found out my coworker was stabbed to death not too long ago, and I wanted to do some research into that. And so I made a Facebook so I could look at the guy who did it, who I sat next to for 2 years. And I found some evidence that showed that he was planning it, and now he's going to get the punishment for it, rightfully. So I basically, when I came back to investigate that, I started seeing everyone talking about simulations and SSP bullshit and this. And for a while, I wanted to get to the bottom of that myself. I was constantly talking to people on the side about these things, that something's not right. There's too much COINTEL going on. There's too much bullshit. And I hope people can finally realize that there's more than just stories going on. There's a lot of things going on this planet that need to be spoken of. And if people are too afraid to do it, they're already lost.
Very profound.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Did you want to give your Facebook, or you just want to?
It's, you can find me on Facebook. It's Jesse Balk. There's no photo or anything yet. Otherwise, you can find me on YouTube under Noble Truth. That's NOBULL Truth. I recently just made it. My old YouTube got hacked ever since that Kiev Ukraine issue I told you about, where everything got hacked by Ukraine for some reason. I deleted everything and I made a clean slate. But yeah, they can reach me on your channel as well. I can answer questions if they have any questions. I'll say plenty more names if you'd like me to say names. I have no issue with that. You know, but I just want to get to the bottom of my story, and I hope other people can realize that I'm not CIA and I'm not in here just to muddy the waters. I'm actually extremely devoted to figuring out what's doing this to the people and planet I hold dearly.
Same here. Thank you, Jesse. Susan, where can they find you? Hi, Frank. How are you? You made it toward the end here.
There's that working man.
Woo! How are you, Frank? So how can they get a hold of you, Susan? And then Power Lady, sorry.
I'm Divine Connections on Facebook, and Dragon and Phoenix on IG and Facebook for our Supersoldier Divine Counterpart groups.
Frank is also on there as well, right? For Divine.
Oh, he's in the Dragon and Phoenix on the Facebook group, and I'm usually the only one answering the IG, but we have that one too, and those are both together.
You also have an Etsy shop, right? On Instagram too.
Oh, yeah, that's Divin Boutique on shoot, I don't even know what that one is. I haven't looked at it in a week. I've been so bad. Yeah, it's Divin Boutique because I couldn't get it Divine Boutique on Etsy, and I sell some of my salves and stuff like that I make, and jewelry and crystals.
Thank you. And Miss Power Lady, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, on my YouTube channel, Power Lady, PWRLADY, and our Instagram, Supersoldier Lady Talk. So check that out, and we just recently started that, so it's gonna get good.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna be doing once a month shows with Jessica Morocco, Power Lady, and myself, tackling some issues that need to be tackled and, you know, dissected. Also relating to our experiences and our astral and our past lives, things like that. Thank you, Power Lady.
Thank you.
Did you want to give your email or just have them reach out that way?
Oh, PWRLADY3@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm Veronica Bartolini. You can Google Codebreaker, Unchained Hearts, Unchaining Hearts. I'm on Truth Social, Twitter. What else? Instagram, I have 3. I'm Lisa Amore on Facebook for my books that I make. I tried Etsy, but forget about it. They want you to pay for everything there. And what else? Telegram. I'm everywhere. So if you need a reading or just talk, let me know. And we all work together as a team in Supersoldier Lady Talk there. So thank you guys for joining us. Love you. See you next time on Codebreaker Real Talk.